everybody, welcome to the garage, which is a chilly garage, isn't it, Pete?
It is quite
Peter
chilly.
Clayton, ladies and gentlemen, behind the camera. It is brisk. I've got to get the fire going. Get some warmth down here. Takes a while to heat up too, this garage. But anyway, I'm Jeremy Cordo, the Court of Public Opinion, on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and of course live streaming from the dining room table come Friday, when you can call us, and we have 3 hours together. Like my old radio shows. Now, speaking of my old radio shows, first I want to thank Michael Smith and Channel 7 for running that flashback segment on Sunday night, which is a great segment. They do all sorts of interesting retrospective things about South Australia and Australia, but South Australia, Adelaide in particular, obviously. Mike Smithson reads the news, and Michael Smith has this great segment. It was about the 100th anniversary of radio in Australia, which happily was right here in Adelaide, with the birth of 5DN. And in that 100 years, I only played a very small part. I had the great privilege of, at one point, owning it and bringing it back when others wanted to bury it. And you never know. You never know. With the help of the radio gods, I might bring it back again. It's possible. Everything's possible, you know. And by the way, Frank Sebastian, long-time music director and performer around South Australia, and entrepreneur and raconteur, but he was the music director of 5DN for a long time. I don't think he was mentioned in the flashback segment, but he was a very, very important part of the team. He rang me to say that he enjoyed the segment, but Frank told me it was his wedding anniversary. And Frank, that's incredible. Frank Sebastian, 61 years married. Happy 61st wedding anniversary to you and Christine. And that, 61 years in show business, I don't know, that's got to be a record. Rupert Murdoch has just got married again. I can't see him quite doing 61 years. He's got a bit of trouble sort of staying married. I don't know, I better not go there. He kind of likes variety, obviously. But God bless him. I mean, she's 30 years younger than he is, or whatever it is. And he seems to have a lot of life left in him. And I'd like to be as virile and as interesting as Rupert Murdoch when I get to be 92 or 93 or whatever he is. With the sale of electric cars tanking all over the world, and make no mistake, they are, China, which has now thrown its entire industrial weight behind its car industry, because it does have significant economic problems. They're now confronted with the United States putting a 100% tariff on their electric cars. 100% tariff. That'll get their attention. What else is around in the financial world? The GDP figures will be out tomorrow, Wednesday. These are the national accounts. They'll tell us what we need to know about the state of the books, albeit it's a retrospective view, a quick look in the rear vision mirror over the last 3 months. But it takes into account consumer spending, consumer confidence, government spending, and therefore I suppose government confidence, sort of taking the pulse of the national economy. We'll have a talk about that on Friday, because at the time of recording this we don't have those figures, the GDP figures, gross domestic product figures. The annual wage decision came out yesterday. Now, from memory, business wanted 2%, or they thought they could live with 2%. The unions thought 4% to 5%. But Fair Work Australia has decided that the basic wage will rise to 3.75% from July 1. A maximum increase of about $33 a week. That'll take it to $24, it's about $24.10, I think, an hour, or $913 a week for a 38-hour week. This will affect about a quarter of all Australian employees. And yes, of course, it will be passed on in the form of higher prices. So what's the point? What is the point? It's a dog chasing its tail. Get a bit more on the pay envelope and you hand it over at the cash register checkout. Inflation, which I'm sure you'd be aware is edging up. Retail sales are not good, flatlining in fact. Consumer confidence just about nil. No cut in interest rates probably this year. Interesting. This is interesting. South Australia has recorded the highest hotel occupancy in the country for the month of June. This is bookings for June. This should help the restaurant trade, which is on its knees, believe me. But will it? I don't know. Creditor Watch says that 1 in 5 restaurants will close within the next year. Restaurants only make, this is a figure I heard out of Adelaide, I don't know about Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and Perth, but 30 cents out of a meal profit from a meal costing $30. That's their margin. Phew. Costs are out of control, exacerbated by things like payroll tax. Big and popular restaurants here in South Australia have closed. Hotels and cafes as well. The Edinburgh Castle is a case in point. The oldest licensed pub in Adelaide. A multi-million-dollar facelift. It opens to great acclaim. 2 months later, it closes. Then there was the Cork and Cleaver, Enzo's. These are landmark places. Hog's Breath in Glenelg, Martini's and Chloe's in Norwood. Even the North Adelaide Burger Bar. Ever been there, Pete?
No, I haven't.
I'm surprised. Well, I hung around North Adelaide a bit, so I did know it. The North Adelaide Burger Bar opened in 1951. The first late-night venue in Adelaide. That's 73 years of continuous trade. Gone. Closed. End. There is something fundamentally wrong when an industry that employs so many people in every city in Australia has a similar problem staying afloat. Perhaps restaurants are the canary in the cage, or the canary in the coal mine in the cage. It reminds me of what happened when Paul Keating introduced his fringe benefits tax. But what happened was a lot of more upmarket restaurants decided that they'd go down market and become cafes, and they managed to get by. Thank you, Mr. Keating. Ramping is getting worse. Almost 5,000 hours this month. This is an absolute record, and needless to say, an absolute disgrace. With the amount of money we spend on health, public health, it's a massive failure, and I've got to place it at the feet of the minister. He must take ministerial responsibility. Whether or not you hold Peter Malinauskas responsible for his promise at the last election to fix ramping, that's up to you. But I believe that promise swung the election for him. COVID and seasonal flu is everywhere. I had my flu needle this morning. Hospital delays, 2, 3, 5 hours. A 5-hour wait to get a bed. It's really impossible. All non-urgent and elective surgery is cancelled. Either the system is broken, it's inadequate, or people are going to hospital unnecessarily. No. Ticketek. Ticketek has been hacked. Now this is just days after Ticketmaster. This is the really big outfit, Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster had hundreds of millions of patrons, customers, violated. I know the push is on to move us all online one way or another, but clearly don't do it. Everyone, and I'm including the banks, have got to understand our reticence to go online. It's okay to online. You can, well, I give myself a plug. You can tune into jeremycordo.com on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. That can't get you into any trouble. Hopefully it'll entertain and inform you. But when you have to give personal details online for any reason, it's clearly a dubious thing to do. Convenient maybe and cost effective for many, but for the customer I think it is highly ill-advised. Now they're trying to get us onto these smart electric meters so they can charge us for electricity at the busiest, most in-demand time of day. I will not have one of these smart meters on my property. It is up to me. I will not have it. Let's talk about Donald Trump. What did you think, Pete?
Oh, look. I just can't understand how, with the population of 360 million or whatever it is, they come up with Trump and Biden.
Yeah, I know. Well,
but Trump, no, he's an embarrassment, I think.
Guilty of all 34 felony counts.
Yes, but people will still vote for him.
Well, and put jam in his jar.
Yes.
He'll be sentenced on July 11. Now, Donald Trump is no diplomat. He has publicly insulted, probably defamed, the judge, Juan Merchant, I think his name.
The judge who's going to sentence him.
Why'd you do that?
That can't be a smart move, I wouldn't have thought.
I've heard of poking the bear, but that's ridiculous. Oh dear. This was a rigged decision right from day one, he said. Donald Trump, that is, not the judge. The judge should never have been allowed to try this case. The real verdict, Trump said, would come on November 5, the date of the upcoming presidential election, which Trump is presuming he will, number one, be the Republican nominee, the Republican candidate, and this judge said, quite memorably, no, he said of the judge, this judge can't put two sentences together. Now, if the judge can't put two sentences together, I tell you what, it's a bit of a challenge. The judge just might put 34 guilty sentences together. And if he did that, Trump would not see the light of day for years. Trump is certainly not trying to curry favour with the judge. I mean, I can't pretend to understand all the nuances of the case, but as I've said often, just because you're paranoid, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not out to get you. Anyway, in the 3 days since the verdict, the Donald Trump campaign has raised over $200 million, mostly from small ma and pa kind of donations. And if he does become the next president of the United States, can you imagine the revenge he will take? Oh, Lordy. But the other thing about it is that if he does become the president of the United States, there are 37 countries that bar convicted felons from entering, even visiting. Donald Trump is a convicted felon. There are 37 nations, including Canada, the UK, Australia, Argentina, Brazil, China, India, Israel, Indonesia, Hong Kong, Cuba, Mexico. Now these are all countries that you can't visit if you're a convicted felon. That's going to make life difficult. Now, I don't imagine for 1 minute the judge is going to put him in jail. If he does, he's going to have to put the Secret Service detachment in jail with him, because they go everywhere with him, and I can't see that happening. If it did happen, it would make a great television show. Can you imagine? You know, there's Donald in his orange jumpsuit with all the guys with the sunglasses and the dark suits sitting around the table. Oh, be a great television show. I'd watch that. Anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be not very practical from the taxpayer's point of view either. So what's the point of the whole exercise? Maybe Trump is right. It's all about stopping him becoming the President of the United States again. The danger is that all of this is so polarizing and could ferment and fuel an uprising of some kind, or even a civil war, dare I say. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in interesting times. National Action Day for the Free Palestine Brigade. Demonstrations everywhere, red paint daubed all over offices of the Labor politicians, state and federal, including the Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus. Windows of the American embassy smashed. No such passion or interest over the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Isn't it interesting? People have very selective outrage. Don't know what's behind it, and I don't think it's got much to do with Palestine. Leniency is over. Hundreds fined over electric scooter violations. Now, I've got to agree with this. I don't know what you think, Pete.
No, I agree with it. Yeah.
It seems that people who get on electric bikes and scooters think they are on a different planet. They are either seeing themselves as somehow privileged or exempt or above the law. Anyway, basically they're a hazard. I'm glad to see that police in at least 2 states in Australia are taking bad behaviour and this hazard seriously. Thank you very much for being with us. Have I got time for some dates, Pete?
Yes.
Get my glasses on. It's an interesting week because today's Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be back on Facebook and as a podcast. But then on Thursday, of course, it's D-Day, which is a very important. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, but we'll get to that tomorrow. June 4, 1940. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill delivers his famous "We shall fight on the seas and ocean" speech to the UK House of Commons on this very day, 1940. Also, same day, 1940, the British complete the miracle of Dunkirk by evacuating 338,226 Allied troops from France via a flotilla of 800 vessels, including Royal Navy destroyers, merchant marine boats, fishing boats, pleasure craft, and even lifeboats. Miracle of Dunkirk. It was a great movie too. 1944, the US Fifth Army enters and liberates Rome. First European fascist city to be liberated. Now, the Battle of Dunkirk, this is a slightly different one, but interestingly, the same day, 1666 was the year, and the protagonists on that day were the English versus the Dutch fleet. Okay, 1896, Henry Ford takes his first Ford through the streets of Detroit. Wow. This day, 1896. A patent for the ATM machine. That was the beginning of a whole lot of trouble. The ATM is granted to Don Wetzel, Tom Barnes, and George Chaston. That was in 1973. The first automatic teller machine. I wonder what the patent for the ATM would be worth. Quite a bit. 2018, former US President Bill Clinton, in an interview with NBC, says that he hasn't and doesn't need to apologize to that woman, Monica Lewinsky. Tiananmen Square massacre. Chinese troops clear the square of student protesters. Unofficial figure places the death toll at near 1,000. On this day in 1989, I took a whole bunch of listeners to China, only about 3 or 4 weeks after Tiananmen Square, and they were they didn't disguise anything. We walked around Tiananmen Square and you could see the bullet marks on the bricks, because it's a brick paved area, courtyard. US President Donald Trump tweets, "I have the absolute right to pardon myself." Don't you love him? Oh dear, that was in 2018. I have the absolute right to pardon myself. First free press. The first free press, ladies and gentlemen, without government approval, founded in Australia. It was the Hobart Town Gazette. It was started by a ex-convict called Andrew Bent. And it was this day in 1824, the birthday of free speech, which enables me the privilege to sit here and say what is on my mind, and Pete can jump in and say what is on his, and you can tune in on Friday morning and ring me and say exactly what is on your mind as well. American actress Janet Leigh, she's 23. She weds Tony Curtis, he was 26, in Connecticut. Jerry Lewis was the witness. They divorced in 62, but married this day in 1951. Dennis Weaver, American actor. Chester in Gunsmoke. Battered. Born Joplin, Missouri. Died 2006. But he was born on this day in 1924. I liked him best in a thing called Duel, which, funnily enough, was not only, I think, his first or second movie, it was Steven Spielberg's first movie as well. Very, very low budget, but very, very, very good. I think I might leave it there. Oh, Casanova, the Italian writer, adventurer, and famous lover, dies at the age of 73. Probably exhaustion. Giacomo Casanova, 1798, dies on this day. Anyway, if you remember the day for any reason, I hope it's going to be a very happy day, and I hope you have a very safe and enjoyable day. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow with another edition of The Court of Public Opinion. Believe in yourself, and bye for now.